right now. I wanted to bring in our mate Cos Samaras, of course, the man across all the numbers at Redbridge. We spoke to him before, during and after that most recent federal election. And again, his insights, they are fabulous to see. Now, of course, Freshwater, who was previously giving the information to the Fin, looks like they've been given the heave-ho, because guess who's now giving some numbers to the Fin right now? I don't know what's happening here, but it is a big change, Redbridge putting in those numbers. And because I'm fascinated by, as always, the demographic breaks, right, about those huge shifts between under 50, over 50 and all the rest of it. But can I just talk about the One Nation phenomena for a moment? I get it. An election's 3 years away. I get it. Some primary vote in and around the Jacinta Price stuff. I get it. Right. But what a day when One Nation in multiple polls is outpolling the Greens nationally.
It's right across all three. So ours was published on Saturday. We had then Resolve and News Poll on the Sunday. The trend is fairly consistent. It's what I thought was going to happen probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Nothing to do with Jacinta Price. It was more about the issue of immigration being brought up as an issue of prominence politically. And what we do know is that when that happens, it kind of like agitates the coalition's right flank. And so we can see that they've lost primary votes to One Nation. And that's all that's really happened here. And so One Nation's increased its share. It's largely New South Wales and Queensland. There's a bit of that going around in other states, but not as significant. But that's what we're looking at.
But also what's fascinating about all of this, right, is that people sort of turn around and they go, geez, how do the Greens end up with effectively that many senators? It's because that level of support at in and around 10% is basically bang in, year out, year in, year out. So that's what's going to be fascinating here, where obviously Greens preference the Libs, whether the right flank of Australian politics in terms of a poll goes to One Nation, ends up delivering more seats in the Senate and then preferences back to the Libs. That'll be a fascinating conversation. But again, something that might be unpopular with some people, but hey, we're here to tell the truth, right? And sometimes that is the uncomfortable truth, right? Which is, under the age of 50, is it correct to suggest that climate change and a serious recognition of it or a dealing with it is the price to entry, in the same way that the boats ended up being and Labor had to change? So how important is this for people to understand that if you want to be a government, you need people under the age of 50 to vote for you? Will they harden against the Libs if the Libs don't have an offering? They don't have to go in as hard. They don't have to be super lefty. Maybe their solution is free batteries for everyone. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the ticket they need to purchase to even talk to this generation, and the support for the coalition amongst Gen Z women in particular is just the lowest I've ever seen in any numbers ever in this country, 13%. So it's at a pretty critical stage now. But I was watching your previous segment, and if Conservatives put their case like you did, where you actually articulate and build a case for your views, you acknowledge that there is a problem with climate, but you disagree with the policy approach.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have a totally different response from this electorate, that particular young electorate. They'll say, okay, well, he believes in it. That's what I care about. And fundamentally, that is the problem for the coalition right now, because every time they open their mouth and they say, well, we want to get rid of net zero, there's no case building. There's no political story, narrative. There's like, no, that's our position. And so most young people's response is, oh, that's right, because you actually don't believe in it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that very much. But let's also talk about what happened today, right? So we've got this scenario where, Bill Shorten's head got torn off when he was at 43% of 1% of the world's problem. Albanese wins on we'll cut your power bills by $275 on 43% of 1% of the world's problem. We then have a mega election result when we don't know what the government's going to commit to when it comes to 2035. But let's talk about the politics of the consequences, because very obviously power bills have gone through the roof, yet they re-elected the government, right? In your understanding, is there a price point? Is there a inconvenience where people will turn around and say, no, you know what, bugger this, the price of doing something is better than the price of doing nothing? There is a price point where people will push back and say, okay, I get it, but this is too much.
Yeah, it all boils down to how expensive it's going to be at the end, right? And Initially, it was all about renewable energy is going to be cheaper. Now that narrative obviously has stopped, because when we speak to the public, the Australian public, they don't believe that for a minute, but they still want action taken. The problem that any government that is implementing these policies now faces is if they don't lean in hard enough and get this stuff built really quickly to limit the outlay of money and to actually put pressure on those bills, then yes, your point is going to stand, and that is people are going to start questioning the policy settings with regards to climate change.
Yeah, I am fascinated because, I mean, again, you look at the scoreboard and I know people are going to say, well, because net zero wasn't on the table, because they couldn't go in as hard enough, then, but we know what that result was, which was that in every single seat where even there was an offshore this or a wind farm that, the Labor number ended up going up. Last question here, I literally need a 30-second answer, right? Which is, are these people winnable, or it's not until there's generational change inside the way the Liberal Party looks that they even are willing to listen to them again?
Let's reframe it. It's not until the Liberal Party starts reframing its approach to Australians.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good man. The Curtain Cast is obviously one of the places where you can find Cos, and always regularly with us. I do appreciate it, mate, and look forward to reading your next round of polling.